All aboard!
Funky likes that.
I knew I'd get these guys going with that.
Hey.
Welcome to the train station. I want to welcome you guys. If this is your first time here, you're in for a treat. We have lots of fun on our train station episodes. And you can hear our dogs are just off camera. They are getting really excited. You know what else I was thinking about that we should probably do for some of these things?
Not start live streams with doing that so that the dogs get excited?
I think we're going to start them every time like that. Like, did you see how those guys were excited? I'm hoping you at home were excited. I know I was excited. So, I think that a couple things that I think we can work on, and I was thinking about this just not that long ago, is if we had like a train station dance. Like if we came on screen doing.
You need to do this in the morning.
A train station dance.
I haven't worked on it.
I'm feeling good. Let's just try this. Now, bear with me. We can probably like adjust how this goes, and I'm going to have to guide Kayl through
I need to get this on
what I was sort of figuring out. But stand by. Let's try this. Kayl, you're going to have to come off screen with me.
Nope, I'm just going to videotape you.
No, you have to. You have to come.
Nope.
You have to come over here.
Nope.
Kayl, you have to come over here.
I'm not doing it.
You have to do that.
I'm not doing it.
I thought it through.
I'm irritating it right now, and this is really awesome.
No, we have to get this done, Kayl.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I planned this out, guys. So just tell me what you think on a scale of 1 to awesome. How is this getting on camera thing? Here, you just hold my elbows. There, that's what I gotta do. Hold on, we're almost on camera. Okay, guys, get ready. Welcome to the train station. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I mean, it's sort of it's going to be changing it up a little bit. Certainly, the dogs like it, and I don't know. Let me know in the chat if you guys think that's a much better way to start off these live streams, or if you think it was a little bit too much work. I know Kayl didn't love doing it. I want to say hello to Diesel the Beast, Tootsie's Life, SD Cruiser, Abigail Bowman, E Thunder, Daryl PO32007, Melissa Salt. Welcome to you all. Today we're going to be talking about some of the mistakes that I made when I first had my first pet dog. Deegan, who you guys may know if you've seen the channel before, I made a lot of mistakes with her. Now, I'd grown up in a household that raised and trained dogs, but they were working dogs. They were never pet dogs. So I had sort of I didn't have an understanding of the abilities, essentially. I had no idea what my expectations should be of my pet dog. And I made a lot of poor choices. And today I'm going to talk about them with you guys so that you don't make the same mistakes with your dogs. And I think if you're a new dog owner, new puppy owner, you're thinking about getting a puppy, then this live stream is perfect for you. Kayl, do you have anything to add about your day or anything you want to mention?
No, I was actually just thinking about what you were saying, and I'm really lucky because I grew up in the opposite household, really. My parents have been professional dog trainers long before I was born. So when I grew up in a household that was like very dog savvy. I learned how to, interact with dogs, feed dogs, walk dogs, control dogs. I remember being 9 or 10 years old and walking, 7 to 9 to 10 dogs off leash around our 20 acres of property.
Yeah.
I thought that was completely normal.
Right.
But I learned a lot from my parents as far as like how to get dogs to listen and how to train them to do things right from the get-go. And I got my own dog, like my very own dog that I trained from like start to finish when I was 13, I think. His name was Cosmic. He was Whippet, Border Collie, Jack Russell.
Kayl talks about this dog all the time.
And this dog is where I earned my dog training stripes because I thought that I knew a lot. And then when I would train him, he would run away from me, and I would call my mom from the training hall. She'd be at home, and I'd be in tears because the dog wouldn't come.
Right.
And so, like, I really had to sort of figure it out. But every dog I've gotten since have sort of taught me something new, taught me something different. And I think everyone is a little bit better than the last.
Yeah,
and I've had a lot now.
Yeah, and we continue to have a lot. And we have trained a lot of dogs.
Helped other people train a lot of dogs.
So today we are going to talk about some of the dog training mistakes that I regret so that you don't make the same ones. I'm Ken Steep.
I'm Kayl McCann.
Welcome back to McCann Dogs. So if this is your first time with us on the live stream, type new in the chat so that we know that you're here and so that, we can sort of shape our presentation and our conversation today to those of you guys who maybe are brand new to the channel. But to give you the synopsis of who we are, I'm Ken Steep. I'm a professional dog trainer at McCann Professional Dog Trainers. This is Kayl McCann. As Kayl mentioned earlier, her family has had a dog training business for over 35 years.
Has a dog training business.
Yeah, has a dog training business. They've trained over 80,000 dogs to be well-behaved four-legged family members. And each and every week, McCann Dogs helps more than 500 dogs to come when called, to walk on a loose leash, to sit and stay, and all of the other things that come along with having a young dog, as well as an older dog. Like we have grades up all the way up to 4 with like very specific training and dog agility.
Puppy school all the way up to agility.
If this is your first time here, Kayl is a 21-time world champion of dog agility. So after this live stream, we have a fun little thing that we're going to be doing for Kayl's audience, Kayl's agility audience, and we're going to be offering a pretty exciting Christmas thing. But that is beside the point. I see there's a few people new here. Diesel the Beast, welcome. Diesel says they subscribed literally 30 minutes ago.
Oh, cool.
I'm so glad that you could join us here. Now, I think right off the top, we talked a little bit earlier about I see a couple people saying that they're old.
Why are so many people saying that they're old?
I think they're old, like they've been here a while. They're not brand new.
Oh, I get it. Yeah. I was like,
You confused Kayl.
I don't know why everybody's saying I'm old.
Yeah. So I've been hard at work, and I've created a new graphic. Last week we asked you guys who you wanted us to use for the training. We'll get one dog out, I think, in a little bit. We're going to talk about a couple of things that you should be doing with your young dog, with your new dog. Maybe it's a rehomed dog. All of these things apply to those dogs as well, but especially for those of you with puppies, some of the good choices that you're going to make. But I've created a little graphic here with our 7 dogs, and everybody's got a number. So,
look how cute they are.
We'll take a quick little vote when training time comes along. You can start to make your decision now, figure out
Oh my God, they're so cute.
I know, they're adorable, aren't they? You can start to decide which one's your favorite, which one you might want.
Funky's ears.
I know, they're really cute. Who you might want to see us work with. So,
I just saw something a little bit off topic up at the top. It's sort of a weird thing.
Okay. Are you going to send it to the stream?
I don't know where it is. I'm going to go up more.
Okay. Let's go over
Saying
here.
about the egg, the big egg.
Oh, yeah. So, Daryl, PO32007.
He asked what the big blue egg is in the back of the screen.
Yeah, you'll see it in just a minute.
To the right.
when the thing goes.
Is it behind my head?
Might be. Oh yeah,
there.
You can see it now.
There. Oh,
yeah.
There.
Does anybody in the chat know what that is?
Yeah. Does anybody know what that is?
I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to answer.
Dog sport person, you might.
Well, you can just tell them.
Yeah, it's an egg, a peanut egg, and it is designed specifically for doggy exercises. And the dogs do a bunch of balancing on it. They do some different movements on it, and it really is great for strengthening core and doing a whole bunch of things. So we have we have a human gym off to the side here, a very small, very not exciting one. And then we have a doggy gym as well for the dogs.
We do, yeah. Yeah. So this is, it's not only the train station, it's also a training area for us.
Fit Paws eggs, yes.
Yeah.
It's a Fit Paws eggs.
Finn.
Very good.
This is also where we can do some indoor stuff. This is, as you've seen on the channel, this is sometimes where I'll shoot some of our videos. It's a nice quiet space that I can really focus on very specific things for our training videos.
It used to be my training area.
Used to be.
But Ken's taken it over.
Guess what it is?
Oh, God.
It's the train station. Perfect segue. Let's get right into training. Now, when I was putting together this list, we talked a little bit about this topic last week on the live stream, some of the mistakes that I had made. And, I thought we started to talk about it, but I thought this is a great topic. This is a great conversation for some of our people, in the chat. For you at home, if you have any questions about, whether or not some of these choices are good. But more importantly, how to give your dog the best information, because we're so often talking about how important clarity, consistency, and fairness are when it comes to dog training. We always want to be giving our dog the best information. So, that's what the focus of this episode is going to be. So while I start us off, and you can see I've pressed a lot of buttons and made the whiz bangers whiz, et cetera, et cetera. But I've got a question of the day. Do graphic too. I mean, train station is moving right along.
I feel like you did more at home than I did at work today.
Maybe. Question of the day. Do you have, or what was your puppy training mistake? We'd love to hear about it in the chat, and we can even talk about it as we go on here for our live stream. But for me, as I was putting together this list, I'd written a bunch of things down that I really had regretted doing as I look back. After 10 years as a professional dog trainer and all of the dogs that I've had an opportunity to work with and their handlers, I really recognize some of the poor decisions that I made. I can almost see them in some of our handlers before we tell them that you shouldn't be doing this at home. But one of the
that's what makes you such a good dog trainer, though.
Right, is that empathy, really, understanding where they come from, and that's something we do with our in-class students, with our online My Dog Can students.
Actually, if I can just chime in, you just made me think of something. So, in our actual dog training school in Dundas, Ontario, we have about 12 to 15 full-time dog trainers, and we have almost 40 associate trainers that all have their own normal everyday jobs, and then they teach for us 1 or 2 nights a week. But our entire pool of employees or staff members are based from our dog training schools.
Students. They were students.
Yeah, they were once, still are students.
Yeah,
lots of them.
right.
Lots of them, still continue to take classes, but all of them were handpicked by my parents or myself or whoever else to be an apprentice and go through an apprenticeship program. So it's really cool. We have such a wide range of expertise, people with different breeds, different challenges, really boisterous dogs, really, soft, gentle dogs. There's so much, and we have a meeting every single Wednesday where we discuss, classes and students and problem solving, and it's just so interesting when everybody puts their head together and people come up with these really cool problem solving ideas. But I think that's a really, really cool thing.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
all sort of pull from our own experiences, and we can pass our knowledge on to others.
Yeah, and what's really amazing is when we do some of our demos and we do some of our shows and things. These are our family pets. Mm-hmm. We were where you are right now. Working on some of these skills and having questions about some of these things, and then over the course of time, through training and experience and an apprenticeship program and becoming a trainer, helping other people. We've just gotten better and better and better. But those dogs are our family pets, so I'm quite proud to show them off.
Yeah, I always say our dogs are our family pets, but they just happen to listen really well, and they can do some pretty cool tricks.
Right. So let's, I see lots of questions rolling in. If you're new to the train station, we will teach in little segments, and then we'll jump back into your questions. So when you think of something, if you think of something, drop it in the chat, and we'll come back and have a look at it. Our question of the day is, what was your puppy training mistake, or do you have a puppy training mistake? So when I was looking at this list, I was really thinking about all of the very specific things that I did with Deegan, a lot of the bad choices that I had made, to give her poor information, to not, not give her any information at all and let her sort of figure things out. But when I got to the end of the list, I thought, all of these things sort of are underneath the umbrella where I spent a fortune on Deegan. I was buying different collars, leashes, like a containment fence, harness. I just bought so much crap.
That is so like you.
Well, that's probably the most common thing for people because they want to buy a problem or buy a solution to that problem.
And also, you think that that's what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
So you just do all those things. But you don't necessarily know whether it's going to work or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I look back, I'd spent so much money on all of these things. And then if you guys know my story, and if you've been on the train station before, you'll know that, I had a wild and crazy black lab. I went to my vet. They said, go to McCann Professional Dog Trainers. In 3 weeks, I started to see a difference. Mm-hmm. So I want you to really think when you're buying stuff for your dog, some things are really important to have, chew toys.
A crate.
Yeah, a crate for sure. A solid, wow, SD Cruiser.
Go?
Oh, didn't they? No, they didn't. SD Cruiser dropping the super chat. Oh, there they go. SD Cruiser, thank you very much.
Excited too.
Yeah, that's really, really great. Thank you, SD Cruiser, for that super chat. That's really, really amazing.
So generous.
And as you guys see, if you do a super chat, the train station lights up. There's SD Cruiser dropping $20. Wow. Well, thank you very much. We really, really appreciate that. That's really, really awesome.
Is that Corgi swimming?
That is a
swimming Corgi.
Super dog. Yeah,
oh,
it's a super chat dog.
Love it.
So, and to jump back, and we'll get back into those the questions.
Wow,
but
that's so kind. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really, really nice. Thank you so much, SD Cruiser. Be sure that you're not just buying things to fix a problem. Now, having the right equipment is important. We have a couple of videos on the channel where we talk about a flat buckle collar, which is sort of like your starting point for your collar.
Using a leather leash versus other types of material.
Yeah, for sure. But don't think that your the kind of leash you're using is going to fix your walking on leash. Don't think that having a maybe like a perimeter fence is going to like invisible fence. I'm not sure what they call it in different parts of the world.
Invisible fence, I think.
Yeah, the invisible fence where the dog wears a little like tracker thing. Yeah. So.
I'll just fill in your sentences.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. So I'm a little distracted because of the amazing super chat. That's really, really cool. But don't think that those, these things that you can't buy these solutions. They might be things that help you along with your equipment, but be sure that you spend your money wisely. Buy the right thing for your dog. Kayl mentioned a great one, which is a crate. And that's something that I should have done early from the beginning with Deegan, but it's something that I didn't do. And this brings me to another point. We have lots of videos on the channel talking specifically about crate training. And I didn't get to see the value of crate training until Deegan was about a little older than 2 years old, about 2. That's when I went to McCann Dogs. So, the value of a crate, just in terms of management and things like that.
Remember how difficult she was in the crate initially, too?
For sure,
because it's not something she was ever used to.
Yeah, and if you're struggling with a crate, we have a couple of videos on the channel specifically for you. And when
it's well worth the struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. And, all the videos on the channel are there because we want you to be successful. And it's because I've had some of these struggles. We have students every week that say, I'm really struggling with this thing, or what do you think about, this behavior? Then we'll create a video for it, drop it on the channel. So, if you have questions or comments or thoughts, we'd love to know because you sort of shape our content. So talking about the crate, talk a little bit just for a minute about management using the crate, like how helpful it can be.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have really good intentions when they get a crate, but they don't always necessarily know how to use it to like maximize their success or minimize their stress. How do you like that? That was good.
That's pretty. Yeah,
I was pretty proud of myself there. Anyway, so what I mean by that is when you use a crate, not that we need to crate the dogs all day long and use it, too much, but initially we use the crate quite a bit, and we'll use it, when we're sleeping and when we're going out for sure, because we can't watch the dog in those moments. But there's all kinds of other times in the day that you can't watch the dog either, or maybe you're just busy and you need to like put your mind on something different, whether it's helping your kids with their homework, or you need to take a shower for a second, or you need to run down to the end of the driveway and grab the recycling bins. Either take the dog with you or put them in the crate for 2 seconds so that you're not leaving them out to sort of make up their own decisions, which could possibly not be good ones. So not only do you use the crate when you need to confine them for long periods of time, but you also need to use the crate when you just need them to be confined for even just short periods of time. And you really do want to crate them also when you are home. So I hear a lot of people say to me, oh, I'm so lucky I get to work from the house, so I don't really need to crate my dog throughout the day. And that's great eventually, but the crating your dog isn't only just to prevent them from eating things in your house or having bathroom mistakes. It's also for leadership. The fact that I can control my dog's freedom and I can decide when they're loose and when they're free, when they're confined or when they're free, it sort of makes me look a little bit more important because I am in charge of those types of things. It makes me look more like a leader. I have a bit more control over my dog's decision making. And as the dog starts to get better trained and they start to listen better, then I can reward them by giving them more and more and more and more freedom. Yeah. Lots of our dogs are never in a crate anymore, but we did that. We graduated to that slowly as the dog was starting to behave better. But a lot of people do it the other way around. They allow the dog to be naughty, and then they go to class, and then we say use a crate, and then they're like, oh no, I haven't used a crate for 2 years, and then they have to kind of backtrack, which kind of happened with you. But if you just stick it out for like the month or so that it's a challenge to work through, maybe a little longer, maybe a little less, it is so worth it for so many reasons. But we don't even need to stay on that topic anymore because we've done so much on the crate, but it's an important one.
Then let me get us back on track. That was a good one. I thought about it like a minute ago.
Like, are you?
And I'm like, okay,
Are
well,
you
how
just?
can I use train
Are you
station?
trying? Oh,
That's just a train station.
I thought you were trying to say that I was talking too much about something that I wasn't supposed to be talking about.
What have I done? No, I just thought it was a great.
I got the train reference.
Yeah. So let's jump into the chat. So we've talked a little bit about not spending money on stuff because you think it's going to solve your problems. You're going to buy the appropriate equipment, and you are going to focus your energy and time on relationship building, on training. Those are sort of the overarching conversations here. Yeah, there are some great questions. Your crate. Use your crate. Kayl gave us lots of great reasons. Another one is, there might be a time when your dog needs to go to the vet, and they need to be in a crate at the vet. So you want them to be. It's already a stressful experience. Or a groomer. You want it to be boarding. A kennel. If maybe you've got to go in.
I'm going to let you start talking, and then I'm going to interrupt you with more answers.
Words, yeah, that's.
It's like how we play board games.
Let's jump into the chat and see.
Or
what
your friend's
is happening.
house.
Yeah.
I don't have any more.
Okay. Thank goodness. Okay, what are you guys talking about here? I think there was some more.
Up.
It's all down, so chronologically it goes from the bottom.
These are what dogs are getting.
Good, yeah. So let's go up.
Slam's getting a lot of love in the chat right now.
I see Nick Garber.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Nick Garber mentions, hi. Myself and my 12-week-old border collie are enrolled in My Dog Can. Well, that's awesome, Nick. Can't wait to see you working in the group. And if you guys aren't aware, maybe you haven't been on the channel before, My Dog Can is our online training program. So if you can live anywhere in the world and you want to train with us, the link is in the description below to check that out. It's our My Dog Can online training program.
Oh, this is good.
Yep. So Dan and Ellen Luton say our last dog, crate training was the biggest mistake that we didn't spend more time working on and investing in. And it's so funny. You don't realize how valuable it is until you've have a dog who is crate trained.
Yes.
Or you put the effort. I mean, it's night and day difference. And that's something that I really noticed as soon as Deegan was crate trained. It is such a valuable tool because our dogs are always learning. So we want to be making sure that they're getting the best information.
This is unrelated, but kind of related.
Yeah. Melissa Salt asks, what's your opinion of the leashes that Cesar Millan uses, much like a show lead? I don't know what they are. Do you know what they are?
Yeah, it's like a slip leash. It's like, like how they sometimes use them in agility. They have Yeah, I'm not a fan. I'm not really.
So what qualities do you think are important in a leash?
I think that the leash needs to be attached to whatever collar is most appropriate for that dog. Yeah. I think that particular leash that he uses is a collar and a leash in one, which seems super convenient, but the leash will tighten and not loosen very easily when it's used. It's very much like a choke chain, but in a leash, or a nylon slip collar, but with a leash attached. So whatever he does maybe works for him. I'm definitely not going to get into that on the live stream. But I don't believe it is what's needed to be used. I think, a well-fit collar with a 6-foot leather leash or a 4-foot leash or whatever you're training is best. And then there's different head collars out there, or neck collars, depending on what your dog needs. And that's the thing that's most important to know about dog training, is there isn't like a one size fits all thing. There's so many qualities that you have to consider about you as a handler and as a leader and as a dog trainer, and also about your dog and their breed and their personality and their energy level and their confidence and all of those things, because all of those different qualities will really sort of lend you towards some different equipment. So something that Ken would use with Deegan would be different than what I would use with Hippie Shake or Beeline, because they're just two totally different types of dogs. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean one's good and one's bad. It just means that they're different. And that's why it's important to get advice from people that you trust, that can understand you and your dog and be able to provide you with valuable information that's specific to what you need, and not just listening to whatever you hear. Kind of brings it back to what you said at the beginning of the stream.
Yeah, and to add on to that, all of our training, all of the work we're doing, we're moving toward a time and a place where our dogs don't need a leash.
That's right.
We're working completely off leash. So,
In scenarios where that's allowed.
Yeah, of course, for sure.
Lots of places you're not allowed to do
is
that,
responsible.
but,
You
yeah.
know, like you're not going to go into a super busy area.
But what's nice is actually, I was just talking to Dan Luton the other day about this. I forget exactly the context, but we were talking about the fact that the goal is to be able to have your dog off leash outside. You know, if we're, the other day I was cleaning up my car and our drive. How long's our driveway? Like 60 feet to the road, 80 feet to the road, and I had my dogs out, with me on the driveway, no leash, nothing on. And they just kind of hang out because I have good verbal control. And if they wander a little bit too far, I'll call them back. But they just sort of learn because initially they were leash trained and then the leash went on the ground. And then I just sort of transitioned. And now I have a dog that listens off leash and I can give them freedom to do what they want, but without worrying that I'm not going to have control.
Yeah, good. I see good questions coming in, but I also see really great comments. And Maureen Howard says, love your train whistle.
Maureen, you're on the wrong team.
Maureen, welcome to the train station. We're happy you could
get out of
join
here,
us.
Maureen.
Happy you could join us. And I see a couple of questions coming in. A couple of people have mentioned the same thing.
I'm just kidding, Maureen. I'm glad you're here.
Lisa Johnson says, any tips for a 6-month-old Labradoodle that's restless in the house unless we are always training? He just doesn't seem to be able to lay down and relax, always moving. Nick Garber mentions a similar thing.
I actually talked to several people in class about this week.
Great.
This very thing.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
Would you like me to elaborate?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was talking about the fact that I think it's really important to teach a dog how to settle. So we teach, one of the most valuable exercises that I teach my dog in the beginning is an exercise that we just call go and lie down. Yeah. Or and sometimes initially we'll teach like an on your bed exercise where they learn just to go and find a place and learn to relax. But this needs to be practiced because I find sometimes what happens is we end up trying to do it in situations where we're a bit distracted. So particular things that came up this week is I have a couple students in class that are grade 1. They're only about halfway through the program. So their dogs are, a little bit trained, but not completely. And they're having a lot of trouble hearing the head instructor give instructions because their puppies are just so busy at the chair and it's really hard to pay attention. So, the advice I gave them, or the homework that I gave them, is to practice this week, grabbing, taking a chair, moving it to the middle of your kitchen or whatever it is, get your dog's leash, get the bed or whatever it is, put them on the leash, put them on the collar, and then just practice having them lie down at your feet at the chair. And, don't use food to reward them because for some dogs, food actually makes them higher minded because if they really like food, they get really excited. Sure. So typically if I'm trying to keep the dog calm and relaxed, I'll use really soothing praise. So I might say like, good down, good. Like I just sort of speak softer.
It's amazing how much that can influence the dog. Well, you just say that you're relaxing, and so many people are like really intense
good
and excited.
Girl,
yeah, oh
good.
Great. Yeah, they're just so intense that their dogs,
Yeah.
they're so worried that their dog's gonna make a mistake, break their stay, or whatever. That they're like, good stay, and I'm getting anxious watching them. That translates or transfers directly down the leash to your dog.
Yeah, and I find the other problem that people have with teaching the dog to settle is they often aren't consistent enough because it's so easy to get frustrated following through with things. So with this exercise that I'm suggesting, every time the dog would get up and try to wander away, the moment they would get up, I would just very simply place them back into position. So I'd put a bit of pressure on their shoulders, a bit of pressure on the leash, and I would just gently guide them back into the down position. And once they were there, you can't see my hands, so this is not very helpful. There we go. Once they're down, I would just stroke their back calmly, good down, good quiet. Wait till I feel them relax under my hand, and then I would let go and see if they'll lay there all by themselves, and then I would continue to praise. I might even feed every once in a while, and if the dog gets up, I would place them back down. Dogs learn within 1 second. So if I can give any advice at all, I think the most common thing that I see is people give their dog information, whether it's good or bad, too long after the fact. And then the poor little dog sort of saying, okay, I know you want something from me, but I don't quite get what it is because the timing doesn't really make sense in their brain because we're telling them, 5, 6, 10 seconds, sometimes even minutes after, an behavior is done. So the moment they're getting up to sort of wander, you need to place them back. And in the beginning, you will sweat buckets doing this. You'll sweat buckets. But each time that you practice, so I actually did this with a student's dog last night, and within about maybe 2 or 3 minutes of me placing the dog back and praising and soothing the dog, finally the dog just sort of curled on the bed and put its head down, and she was like, all right, I'm done. Yeah. And the lady was like, dropped down. She's like, she's never done that before. Yeah. And I was like, well, have you ever like been persistent like this? She's like, no, I'm so glad you did that because I wasn't doing that. And anyway, so she was like, she was so excited to go home and practice with her chair and her bed and her dog.
Oh, and when you have those sorts of wins, I mean, it's so exciting.
But she was able to see that her dog really, truly could sort of settle and relax and be such a good dog. So that's just a really good exercise for any young dog, especially, or even an older dog that maybe just doesn't know how to calm down and settle.
Yeah, we have a couple of crate training videos on the channel, but we also have a go lie down on your bed video. Yep. And I'll have to do it after the stream, but after the stream, come back. It'll probably be available to watch. We have our live streams available for 24 hours after we record them, after we talk to you on the stream, and then we shut them down. So I'll drop a link in the description for that go lay on your bed video. So come back to the channel and check that out because that's going to be helpful for you. I see Madison Winters also mentions that there's some like great, you can use a stuffed Kong or do something to keep your dog a little distracted while they're in their crate. Madison mentions rollover bones, stuffed Kongs, and Benabones are all great safe distractions for dogs to chew and keep busy.
Totally.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. It's really nice just to sort of direct their attention elsewhere. Okay, so jumping back into some of the regrets that I have with the choices that I made with
before
Deegan.
You go on. Yeah. Just because Lisa has a question about what I was just talking about. Lisa said, thanks for the info. How long would you say to do this when I'm just starting? If you're just starting, I would try to go for like 30 seconds.
and stay nice and close.
Yeah, and then, stay right nice and near the dog. Then I might, bump it to a minute, and then I might go a little bit further. It really depends. How much have you worked on, with sit or down exercise? How much have you already given lots of positive reinforcement for being on the spot or being on the bed? Before we would put this, demand on the dog. I don't know, demand's a bit of a negative word, but
go ahead.
Whatever. Before we would do that with the dog, prior to me doing this with the dog, that dog had been rewarded immensely for going and getting on the bed. The dog was very comfortable getting on the bed. The dog had already been taught to lie down on command and signal. So those two things were working in my favor, which is why I could work for a little bit of a lengthier time. So if you're just starting out, I would definitely that's not funny. Start short and sweet, and then I would progress very gradually. And I would let the dog sort of let me know whether it was, ready to be pushed on or not.
Our expert moderator, Dan or Ellen, I would say this. I think it's Dan who's doing this.
Dan for the win.
He dropped a link in the chat for you guys to check out either now or after, so that you can see that that's to our go lay on your bed and relax video. So well done to our moderator, Dan.
You're awesome, Dan.
Thank you for that. Getting back to some of the decisions that I made that I kind of regret with Deegan, some of the work that I'd done with Deegan, and a couple things we sort of alluded to them a little bit when we talked about crate training, but giving her too much freedom. When I was home, she was free. I mean, I gave her the kitchen at first, and then very quickly, she had the whole first floor of the house. Way too much for a young dog. I mean, your dog can earn that sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? That freedom.
Luxuries.
Yeah, luxuries for sure. But at the beginning, you need to make sure you don't, Dan just mentions that's why I get paid the big bucks, that you don't try to rush those things. You don't want to, hurry your puppy into a situation where they're not ready for. And when we're talking about that kind of freedom, especially with your young dog, especially with your puppy, is using a house line. It is one of the most valuable tools that any of you as a puppy owner will use, because it allows you to have some control over that puppy through their nipping phase, through their chewing phase. They're barking at the window. You have a house line on your puppy. And essentially, can we just talk a little bit about what a house line is?
That is what I was going to say.
Oh,
it's like we're one.
That's sort of how it works here on the train
I
station.
thought you were going to do a brain sucker for a second.
That is my favorite thing.
So house line is essentially a leash in the house that you use in the house. And we typically don't take it outside so that it stays clean. The length of leash really depends on the speed of your dog and the amount of furniture in your home. We typically will, if it's a leash, we will cut off the handle or cut the handle in half so that it doesn't get caught on anything. And we literally have our dog wear this leash in the house 24/7 when they are out of the crate. You don't want to keep it on in the crate for safety reasons. So I just put them in the crate. I clip it to the front of the crate. And then when I open the door, I make the dog wait. And then I clip it to their collar. And then I say, okay. And then I let them come out of their crate. And then they will just drag it around. And, I will have to watch it. Obviously, it gets caught under the table legs sometimes. And, when we had a cat, the cat used to chase it all of the time. Yeah. So there's little, things you have to be careful. But because you're monitoring the dog, usually it's not a big issue. But for like the 2% of things that are annoying about the house line, there's 98% that is just you won't believe how helpful having a line on in the house is going to be for your management of your dog or puppy.
Okay, speaking of management, there's a couple great questions in the chat that I think we should jump on right now. So ST Cruiser mentions, my puppy went almost 1.5 months without going potty in the house.
Wow.
Yeah, she's only allowed in the living room, in the kitchen. I was about to allow her into another room until she had an accident. Oh. So identifying that she's not quite right, it's so important that happens. But these mistakes will happen. Yeah. Puppies will make these mistakes.
The real question is, SD Cruiser, were you able to catch the dog in the act of having the accident? Because to be honest with you, I actually like if my dog has an accident in the house, like once or twice, if I'm right there, because then I can catch them in the act and I can address it appropriately. And then usually once or twice, the puppies are like, oh gosh, I didn't know, sorry.
Right.
And then you're going from there. So it would be great to know if you were able to catch them.
For sure. And it's a great training opportunity, but don't feel like, geez, I'm losing here. I'm losing the battle.
It happens.
If your puppy makes mistakes in the house, it will happen. You just take a step back and train through it. Being wrong is just as important a training opportunity as being right for your puppy. So as Kayl had mentioned, capturing that moment using your voice, etc., to mark the behavior is so valuable. It really helps your puppy truly understand. Dan Luton mentions, our dog is hardly ever upstairs. I bring her up there every once in a while, but she's afraid to go anywhere. Is it safe to try and get her moving around, or better to let her do it on her own terms? Now this speaks to something that I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but let's talk a little bit about socialization with a puppy to people, places, and things.
Yeah, I think specifically to your question, I don't think that it's a bad idea for you to take her to a new location in the house every once in a while. You might, when you go up there, take some treats and maybe do, some of the training exercises that she really enjoys, so that she's not really thinking about where she is so much. She's more thinking about like, oh gosh, we're doing things that, we always do together, and that might sort of make her feel a little bit more relaxed. Or take up, I know she loves to play with the toys, so maybe take her toy up and see if she'll do a little bit of tugging in the hallway or in the bedroom or something. And then once you've done a little bit, take her out again. So it's a little bit. You could let her just kind of figure it out on her own as well, but it would be interesting to see if she's able to focus on you when you change locations, and be able to work and get past any of her insecurities that she might be having in that moment. So that might be a good thing. And then what did you ask before about?
We're just talking about like socialization to people, places, and things. So for that specific event, Lucy, who's Dan's dog, is a little bit worried about those about upstairs. But you might find your puppy. If you have a winter puppy, maybe when the grass comes, when it's springtime, they're like, what is this green stuff? Maybe your dog doesn't like manhole covers. That's something we worked on in the My Dog Can with one of our students. Mm-hmm. You're going to encounter things that your puppy's really worried about, and that sort of idea is often a very good one to work on, desensitizing them, rewarding them for making good choices, doing something that they already love. That's a great hack.
I was actually I had one of these moments with my own dog today. I was in the arena before I came home to do this, and a guy came into the arena, and he was wearing like this big coat and a big furry hat and big boots, and my puppy Beeline was like, woo, 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 woo. Like she was like, oh my God, what is that? that. And so at first she was like really sort of taken aback. So I just sort of got her attention and I asked her to sit and lie down. And then I said, where's your toy? Where's your toy? And then she went and grabbed the toy and I started tugging and playing with her. And within moments, she was like, okay, I think I can do this. And then I would have her sit and I would let her look at the guy. And then she would sort of be a little unsure. And then I would get her to look back. And then when she looked back, I would play tug. And by like the third or fourth time, she would look at the guy and then look back at me as if to say, are we going to play? This is great. And she was completely relaxed at that point. So I just took her mind that was a bit stressed and uncertain, and I just rerouted it to something that I knew would help her to get into a more positive and confident state.
It makes me think of I'm a terrible cook. And
he is. He tries, though.
Anytime I try to make anything for dinner, or if we're using the oven, the smoke alarm will go off. So Beeline developed, like, she'd know as soon as I started the oven that the smoke alarm would go off, and it's this sharp, piercing noise. So she'd get a little bit worried about once I started to use the oven. So Kayl and I would do things like, we'd get...
One of us would cook and the other one would play tug.
Right, exactly. We'd get dinner started, and then we'd do something fun with her, or we'd go, like, work just outside of that, or, just outside of that worrisome zone, whether it's the kitchen or whatever that sort of threshold is for your dog. And we'd do something fun with her. And then it slowly got her more accustomed to us using the oven. She wasn't as afraid of the idea that I was starting the oven that she thought the house was going to burn down, clearly.
She would be a really good fire alert dog.
Yeah, she would be. I should take her to my other work.
You should.
I work as a firefighter. But so that can be a really, really powerful thing. Now, when we were mentioning before, I mentioned before that we were going to, now I've got so many things going on, I've got to figure out what I'm doing here. We are going to do some training. I think Grand Slam 1. Now, if you didn't choose Grand Slam, you're going double down next time. Double down in our next train station, and maybe we'll get one of the other dogs out. I did see a couple of those for Deegan.
Do you think that he won because he's like the first one that you see?
Could be. That's a great science experiment to do. I'm not really sure.
I want to know why he got picked. I mean, I think that's a great choice. But.
Yeah. I was wondering if Hippie Shake was too big, if I made her too large, and if people were going to be like, wow, who is that?
She does look a little large.
Who is that unusual looking dog? Now, I wonder if you could get Grand Slam out, and we'll just do some like natural training opportunities, like loading the yes, teaching your dog not to take food roughly. Do you think those would be some good things Dan mentions, how do you train Kayl to deal with your cooking?
Oh, I'm an awesome cook.
Kayl is, yeah. I am not.
I'm a mediocre cook, but I try. I'm good at dessert.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm good at dessert.
I'm good at eating dessert. So, I mean, we're a match made in heaven.
We are a match made in heaven. We should get married.
Let's go over to the train station. This is what we're all here for. It's time to head over to the train station. Now, I've made all these changes to all of the software and equipment, and I'm hoping that I can go to camera 2. Oh, there we go. That is the train station. If you are brand new to the train station, we're going to do a little bit of work with Grand Slam. And Kayl's going to talk about some of the natural training opportunities. And these are the things that I didn't do with Deegan. And having had several puppies since then, I know how valuable they can be. Just maybe loading the yes, name, reward, like stuff that you do with a puppy.
Yeah. Am I in the
You
shot?
need to back up just a little bit. Or... You're probably going to be on your, down.
Stand.
Okay. Hang on one sec.
I'm just so tall. You can't get me in.
Okay. That's pretty close. Or you can come this way, touch.
Yes. Okay, so one of the things that we will start to do when we're training, because a lot of the training that we do with our dogs, initially, Funk, be quiet, babe, uses a bit of food. So I actually have Slam's dinner. We haven't fed our dogs dinner yet. And so his dinner is in this bowl. So that's actually what I'm going to use for his training right now. So I'm going to take some of his dinner. And this is exactly what I did with him as a baby puppy when he first, I was about to say first came home, but he's always lived here because I was his breeder. So I've been with him since day one, buddy? So what I would do is take some food. Funky, you're so jealous right now. And I would simply teach him what the word yes is. And while I'm doing this, though, I want him to be mindful about how he's taking the food from me so that he's not snatching it or being rude. So if I do feel he's a little bit overzealous, I might, say, oops, and pull my hand away, or ouch, pull my hand away, and I'm not going to let him have the food. I want him to be gentle. So I'm just going to offer my hand to him. Yes, good boy. So he was quite gentle there. He just sniffed my hand. I said yes and then rewarded him. Yes, good boy. Yes, good boy. Yes, good boy. So Here, bud, sit. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying the word yes and then I'm rewarding. Now I did that pretty quickly, so you might not have been able to see, so I'll slow it down a little bit. Yes, and then feed. Yes, and then feed. Now this is very similar, you know, if I was to say to you, you know, yes and then give you $100, or yes and then you know, give you chocolate or whatever it is. I'm basically teaching you the word yes is really good. But what a lot of people when they're doing this with their dog, they end up doing this. I'm going to do it wrong for a second. Yes. Yes. So I'm doing it backwards, so Slam's getting the food, and then he doesn't really care about the word yes because he already has the treats. So it's very important that your timing is spot on. This exercise also will help you to have better timing for other exercises as well. So here's another common error that people will sometimes make, and this sort of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Yes. And then they feed. So there's a lot of distance between the word and the treat from there. So I'll move on from that. I think that's probably easy enough. So the other thing that I'll start to do is teach him how to listen to me when he hears the name. And I might even start off with something similar to what I just did. Slam, good boy. Slam, good boy. Slam. He's like, why are you calling me? I'm right here. Good boy. Then I might add a little bit of a distraction, so I might get him to look away. Slam. Yes. And when I said his name that time, I used the food and I drew him towards me, teaching him to turn on his name. So when I'm first starting out with this, I don't call his name and cross my fingers and hope that he turns. I set him up so he has a 100% success rate. So I'm saying his name, I'm automatically turning him, and then I'm rewarding him. Now where this is important is if he's out in the backyard or if he's in the other room or whatever it is, I don't want to be slam, 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 and calling him and, you know, not following through if he doesn't listen. When I'm training a baby puppy or training a dog that maybe needs a little bit more schooling, I would wait until I was close enough that I could engage with him. So I would walk right up to him, slam, yes. And then I would use the food to help him. And I would do that for several weeks until basically the moment I go to call, you can see I go to say his name and he's already almost on top of me. And that's because he's had hundreds of repetitions of being able to do this. And then I can start to test it. So if I was to throw food away, I can practice a little game. Okay, look at it. Good. Slam. Good boy. Get it. Good. Slam. Yes. Get it. Oh, get it. Slam. Yes, good. Get it. Slam. Yes, good boy. So I throw the treat out, tell him get it, and then I can call him back from there. And he just learns coming to me is just such a fun game to do. And I just successfully gave him a whole bunch of his food. And with him, I would actually do longer training sessions. So I might do a little bit of the yes and feed. I might do some names. I might do some little luring exercises, maybe some trick work with them. Things that are going to give us something to do together to build a relationship. And then maybe when he's about, you know, most of the way done his food, then I might throw him in the crate for the last, you know, little bit, throw a little bit of water on his food, and then let him eat the rest from there. But that's sort of how a training session would go typically with a dog that I was training. But I would do many of those sessions a day, and then some of the sessions might incorporate some toy work. Others might incorporate some treats. Some would be in the kitchen, some would be in the backyard, some would be at the training hall, whatever it might be. I just keep changing it up so that the dog learns a lot of different options and scenarios.
Perfect.
Anything else?
No, I think that's good for now. Now, headphone warning. The audio is going to get loud for a moment as we switch back to camera one. I think you're good. He's good. Let's turn our audio down a little bit. And we'll bring you guys back over. So tons of good training tips there. And those are some of the things that I really wish I'd done with Deegan. You know, loading that yes, really building value on the word yes so that your dog loves that word. I mean, it becomes a reward in itself. Hearing yes to your dog becomes the reward.
Yeah, like Slam, I don't need to give Slam treats anymore when I say the word yes because, okay, he has had hundreds of repetitions of hearing the word yes and then being rewarded. So he actually starts to feel internally happy. Okay, that was like literally in my mouth. He starts to feel really happy when he hears the word yes because he associates it with me, you know, being really happy. So he loves, I can't, buddy. He loves when I say it to him.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's jump back in
You're so
to
handsome.
the chat. I see ST Cruiser mentions normally I would, but since she had been doing so well, I was giving her a little bit more room for error. Just watch her. She went pee once and poop once, but luckily it's been about, I think, 2 weeks without accidents. So that's really, really great. Let's see what else we have. So Daryl PO32007, I haven't heard. I like Mac. Have not heard about him before. Yeah, he's my sheepdog. He is a competition sheep herding dog that I got when he was 7, 8, 9, 8. He was an older dog. He was already well accomplished.
7.
And I got him as a someone who's learning sheep herding and competitive sheep herding.
He's called like a started dog.
It's a started dog. Yeah, he was at an open level. So
and that means that they've already had a little bit of herding training before the next owner before Ken got him.
Yeah, yeah. So he's a great dog, and maybe he will win. He has absolutely zero formal obedience training, but he listens. Yeah, but he listens remarkably well because his own. When he was a puppy on the farm, his owner made great choices with him, obviously, because he was a working dog. He was on a working farm.
They have to learn to come when they're called. Yeah. They have to learn to lie down when they're told and stay. He was a working border collie that was on a farm that had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cattle and sheep. Yeah. And he had to help with the chores every single day. So, yeah, he came to us with a lot of nice basics. Although we did do a little bit of work with him because our commands and stuff are quite different.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We had to do a little bit. And I was trying to learn a sheep herding whistle. I was trying to go to the shot number 2. Look at Slam. Look at how much fun he's having.
He's having a party with a bee.
Oh,
what'd you find, bud? Did you get a bee? Where's your bee? Oh, that's nice.
That's nice. Good job, buddy. So the other thing I wanted to mention, Kayl gave you some very specific information or examples of exercises that you can do for with your young puppy. The other thing I want you to keep in mind, and this is something I'm going to create a video about, is while you're making your coffee in the morning, take 10 treats out of your bait pouch or out of your whatever you're rewarding your dog with, and do like sitting at your side, do some down signaling, do those things, but break it up. We, using the McCann method and using our training school, our online training, and with our agility dogs, we focus on the dog's attitude. The dog needs to clearly understand what you're doing, but they need to be in the right headspace. And you're much more successful when you have a dog who's motivated to learn. So breaking it down with those young puppies, again, puppies' bellies are so tiny as well. You don't want to fill them full, but practice for those short sessions with your dog, and then break it off and try something else. It's a really, really important way to apply your training and apply some of the exercises that you have learned. We talked a little bit about poor management. One huge mistake that I made was introducing Deegan to my other dog too quickly. Now, it created a lot of problems, and we have a couple of videos on the channel. We might need to grab that from if it's too squeaky, but we have a lot of videos on the channel talking about relationship building, and it's a pretty abstract thing. But for Kayl and I, for a dog trainer, there's a certain understanding of what relationship means. It's not just that the dog wants to work for you. It's that you know where their threshold is. You know how long they can work. There's a real understanding about how they like to train. The challenges that they might have, what they're motivated by, all of those things. And that's something that you learn working with your dog. When you get this new puppy, if you have another dog or dogs at home, it's really important that you spend time with them working on those things. Just you and them working together, doing your training. Our video on the channel that talks about how to introduce your puppy to your other dog speaks specifically to that. But it's all about building that relationship. Letting your puppy know that you are the best thing in the world and that all good things come from you. Because when your puppy comes home, they've just come home from their litter, and they know how to get along and play and build relationships with their litter mates. So if you introduce your puppy to your other dog and they have a grand old time, they're the best of friends right away, then you start to lose value, and it makes it more difficult to, that other dog could be a great distraction. While you're training, your puppy would be much more interested in playing with the other dog rather than listening to you. So it's really important that you spend a little bit of time, or you spend a lot of time, until you sort of reach that point where your puppy will listen to you reliably 100% of the time. But you spend that time working with your puppy before you integrate them into your household. Kayl, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, I do think that, and I guess I said no, and then I said yes. Yes, I do. This is some of the advice that we're giving you, especially about like dog to dog interaction with other dogs in your household. This isn't like a forever, like you're never allowed to let your dogs play with each other. This is just until you've like established a little bit of a basic with your dog, because it, like Ken said, if they're doing a lot of playing with the other dog, and maybe your other dog has bad habits that you don't want your puppy to learn. You always want your next dog to be better than the last. So you just want to be really careful about that.
So this is a good training opportunity. I want you to look behind you, Kayl.
Okay.
I'm going to go to camera 2. So Kayl and I gave our little buddy Grand Slam a little bit of time with the one of the chew toys.
Oh my!
And he de-stuffed it.
And we were not supervising.
We weren't supervising well enough. We didn't expect Slam to do that. Look at him.
Oh, Slammy, that's so nice. Can I have that? Thank you.
You can see what's left of the chew toy, or the. So, great example. I may not have chosen. Hi, buddy. All of the right toys for Deegan. That's an interactive toy. That's not a chew toy. That's not something that Slam should be able to just lie down and chew on, and he got it out of our tickle trunk or toy basket or whatever we're calling that thing. This is a toy that you'd want to engage and interact with him with. You can see he wants to pull Kayl down to the end of the studio, but we should have been paying closer attention when he when he got that toy.
Out. This has got to go away.
One thing that socializing with your other dogs, check out the video on the channel. It's so important. It is so important to have your dog really understand that they want to and would rather listen to you than with to your other dogs. Now, one thing that I did that I think a lot of people do, I know we hear mentions of this in classes and things from students, is they say, oh, I just took him out. I took him for a big run before I brought him to class. Or I went out.
Classic.
Yeah, and I tired him out before I got to class. But they may be like letting their dog run off leash or, make all of these mistakes. They may be doing things that are, go against what you're trying to teach your dog. Because what I learned with Deegan, and if you've seen Deegan on the channel, she's a pretty athletic dog, but you'll end up with a dog that has great endurance, is really fit, but still doesn't really like to listen or understand how to listen. So understanding the balance between working their brain, working some of these challenging exercises, the things they struggle with, and working their body, that balance needs to be found. The other thing is if you're working so hard and getting your dog to respond to name, and then you take them out to your backyard or to the park or wherever, and you throw a Frisbee for them and they don't bring it right back, your dog's starting to learn, I don't really need to listen.
No, I have to listen when I go to class, but then when I go to the park or the backyard, there's no follow through, so I don't have to do the exercises in those situations. Absolutely.
So, working on some of those exercises that you will be working on. I mean, it's really important to take your dog for walks. It's really important to play a fun game of tug when you know how to
exercise dog definitely will behave better. You definitely want to keep high exercise, especially if you have a really high energy dog. Lots of walks, lots of runs, lots of things like that. But don't allow that to mask your ability to train your dog when they're being a little bit out of control, because if you don't ever work through that, you're basically masking behaviors and you're not really learning to work through them.
Yeah, for
sure.
You
need to be careful about that.
And make sure that whatever you're doing with your dog for physical activity matches up with what you're doing with them in class.
That's a good point.
You don't want to, we always have with our puppies, they're on a long line until they respond 100% of the time. If they're out and they're free, so to speak, we have a long line on them so that we can redirect them if something happens, the unforeseen happens, or we need to call them back or work on training or whatever. They have that long line on until they're responding 100% of the time, because all it takes is one time for them to find something, whether it's maybe chasing a squirrel or, whatever, eating some rabbit poop or whatever the thing is. They find that super gratifying, and you're calling them and you're calling them and you're calling them, and you're not following up. You're not able to redirect them using that line. And your puppy starts to think, wow, that was really great. I didn't really have to listen. I got to eat whatever this thing is, or I got to investigate this, what a patch of grass on the ground. Mm-hmm. So it really undoes your training. Be really consistent about that. And it's not forever. You're going to work these skills. You're going to be, very precise with your expectations and really support your dog and have great results working really hard for those first couple of months until you reach a point where the dog's listening reliably, and then they can have some freedoms. It's really, really important. And that's one of the big mistakes that I made with Deegan, is I just gave her too much freedom and too much opportunity to make some bad choices. And I wasn't able to.
And they end up having to retrain things.
Yeah. And it's just so much harder because, your puppy may find that other thing way more gratifying than you, especially if it's like another dog or chasing an animal. Like that's a very gratifying behavior for a lot of dogs. And you have to work so hard to, really teach them that I'm more fun. I am consistently bringing value. You have to listen to me. It's that important. So those are some of the things that I thought were really important to share with you guys. Now, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. We are going to be live for a couple more minutes answering your questions. I'm going to have a look here and see what sort of conversations have been happening. Yeah, I see Dan dropped a link to one of the, let's see.
I think it's
over the stay command. So yeah, where's that Nappy? Nappy asks, a little off topic, but what's a good training exercise for a stay command?
We just did something similar to that, actually.
Yeah. So Kayl and I were just talking about what the next couple of weeks is going to have in store for you at home. And I think a stay video might be something that can help a lot of people out working on the stay, talking about why it's so important, as well as teaching you exactly how to do it. So I think I'll drop a video on the channel, but something very similar to the stay is our wait command. And I think I may have included a link. There might be a card above this video, Nappy, for you to check out if you haven't already. I see Dan actually he dropped the link. Thank you very much for doing that, Dan. That was appreciated. Dan asks, are your herding videos on this channel? Yeah, we do. I have 3 or 4 maybe competition herding videos. One, our first or second one, Mac and I did really well. Mac did really well in spite of me or despite me. I don't know which one it is, but so make sure that you're giving your puppy and your young dog or your new dog great information. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Again, I often say, the videos on this channel are experiences that I've been through. I know how valuable all of these things are. Or we get great questions from you at home, our YouTube audience, who, you have a question or a comment about something, and it's a great opportunity for us to create content around it. Or our in-class students or our My Dog Can online training students. They ask us great questions, or they encounter an unusual scenario, and we'll create content specifically for that. So we love to help you guys out in that way. So if you have any comments or questions or something you want to work on, make sure you drop it on the comments or drop it on the channel or send me an email. This is good. So, okay, go ahead.
Only because she's asked a couple times now. Yeah. This is off topic. I know Kayl retired Funky from big agility competitions, but I'm curious about Slam. Is he still in competition? No, he's not. Unfortunately, I've had to end his career much earlier than I should be due to an injury. He is better now, but I don't feel that it's worth the risk of him getting re-injured. My ultimate goal in life for him is to live a long and healthy and uncrippled life and for him to enjoy himself. So nope, he doesn't do agility anymore, but he does lots of other fun things, and we have been doing all kinds of things over the winter. He gets to do an underwater treadmill, and he goes swimming on a weekly basis.
And he loves those things.
He loves swimming. We started to do some stand-up paddleboarding last summer, do some rally, do some all kinds of things with him. He hikes. He does all kinds of stuff. So, it's very sad, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it's for the best.
These things happen.
Sometimes you have to make these tough choices, and we have to do what's best for him, for sure.
Now I'm just focusing on Rad and Beeline.
Yeah. So I love this question. And I think we can probably create content around this. We can maybe do, so Life of Finn asks, exercises for a start line stay. We have a great stay everywhere, but in the agility ring. And Life of Finn, I don't know whether you have seen our, so 3 weeks of the month we're here in the train station, but 1 week of the month we actually do an agility live. So this is perfect for you.
Startline is a brilliant idea for the next agility live stream.
For sure. So because you asked for it, Life of Finn, we will definitely drop that. I think it might be 2 weeks. It just depends on my fire schedule. So if I work a Thursday for 24 hours, I can't be here in the train station. So we usually do a video earlier in the week. So I will definitely drop it on the channel. We'll let you know. I always schedule our lives a little bit early so that you guys can know exactly what's coming up. So check out the channel in a couple of weeks. We will do probably a Tuesday night live stream talking specifically about the Startline Stay, and we'll get you sorted out. On that note, I'm running out of gas, but we have another live stream to do here in just a minute.
We're crazy.
It's an exciting agility announcement, and I want to thank you for watching. As I mentioned, we've had so many new subscribers show up to the channel and join us and ask great comments, questions. Drop your comments and questions on the comments in every video. If you have a question, you see something, you like it, you're not sure, whatever, drop it in the comment section because I get a chance to read all of them. I don't get a chance to read the replies, but if you put a comment on our videos, I'm able to have a look at it and hopefully help you out. But if this is your first time on the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We publish new videos every single week to help you to have a well-behaved four-legged family member. And I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank you for popping into the train station. And I want to wish each and every one of you happy training. Thanks for joining us, guys. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.